Are you looking for the perfect camera in 2025 but feeling overwhelmed by the endless options? Let me help you find the right one. Please do note that this video isn't for everyone. It's designed specifically for intermediate to mid-range professionals or those who are stepping into the world of professional photography and videography, who are serious about finding the perfect camera for their needs. So I'll be breaking down cameras from creative as well as professional perspective, analyzing their features, their strength and use cases so you can make an informed decision. Whether you are upgrading your current gear or buying your first serious camera, I have curated this list to guide you without overwhelming you. First, we are going to be talking about the cropped sensor camera, and later on we are going to be comparing some full frame cameras. So in the cropped sensor category, we are starting out the Canon EOS R50. The Canon EOS R50 is a versatile APS-C mirrorless camera that combines high-resolution imaging, rapid shooting speeds, and advanced autofocus capabilities, making it a compelling choice for a wide range of photography and videography applications. So the sensor that the R50 has is a APS-C CMOS sensor. Of course, it's a cropped sensor with the resolution of 24.2 megapixels. Coming to the autofocus, this camera has dual pixel Cosmos autofocus 2, which Canon is of course renowned for. The other features that this camera has, which my R6 Mark II does have with its autofocus system, is it has subject detection for people, animals and vehicles, which is of course a professional features which they have successfully managed to integrate into the R50. The best feature about the Canon EOS R50 is it has the 3-inch vari-angle touch LCD, which is fully articulating and suitable for vlogging and self-recording. So the resolution at which this camera captures pictures is 6000 by 4000 pixels, which of course is coming off of a 6K sensor, because this camera is also oversampling 6K footage into a 4K footage, which we are going to be talking about in a while with video capabilities. On to the next, with burst shooting mode, we can shoot up to 12 frames per second with electronic first curtain shutter and up to 15 frames per second with the electronic shutter, which is mind-blowing. On to the next, let us come to the real deal: video capabilities. So this camera can shoot up to 4K 30 frames per second, which is of course oversampled from 6K to 4K, giving us more sharpness and more details. We can also record full HD up to 120 frames per second for slow motion recording, which for a camera like R50 is more than enough. The features are really stunning. Now that we know of the video features, the photo features and some specifications about this camera, now let us come to the real deal. Who is this camera really for? So this camera can be for entry-level photographers, content creators and vloggers like me. If I have a camera which is lightweight and easily goes around in my pocket and this and that, or my camera bag, I would love to carry those kind of small cameras which provides me with a high quality footage and get my work done. So this camera can also be for travel photographers, and lastly for family and event photographers, because it has the capability to get the work done in the real world as well. Now please do note that I'm not mentioning any prices over here, because of course we can make out that the cameras can be cheap, and as we are moving in a sequential way from cheapest to the most expensive ones, we can easily distinguish. And I do not want to confuse my viewers because prices vary around the world. So I'll not be mentioning prices in this video, but I'll be leaving links down in the description so that you can check it out for yourself. Now on to the next, let us talk about the EOS R10. Of course, the EOS R10 is also a APS-C cropped sensor camera, but it has that capabilities because it's a bit more expensive than the EOS R50. Yeah, the sequence over here can be a bit confusing at times, but yeah, that's how the sequence is with Canon. Now the EOS R10 is something which I would also love to have as my vlog camera, or my daily go-to camera, because I love capturing pictures. Though I'm not a photographer, I'm just a hobbyist photographer, but I do love to have a camera which is capable of getting the shots that I want to So the sensor type is similar to the EOS R50. It has the same CMOS sensor with resolution of 24.2 megapixels, ISO range varying from ISO 100 to 32,000. Again, with the autofocus we have similar features with R50. The photo capabilities, again, it captures pictures at 6000 by 4000 pixels. With mechanical shutter, it can go up to 15 frames per second with the mechanical shutter. Now we do get few frames extra with the mechanical shutter with the R10, and when we switch to electronic shutter, we get up to 23 frames per second. Being able to have 23 frames per second in that small camera is a real good deal. The image it captures is still in 14-bit RAW, and we do get JPEG option. So when we talk about video capabilities, it does 4K 30 frames per second, which is of course oversampled from 6K for higher qualities, and we do get 4K 60 FPS with this camera, the R10. But the only condition over here is we do get 1.56 cropped factor, which I guess at this price point is not a bummer, I would say. And of course we do get full HD 1080p at 120 frames per second, which is a bonus over here. So now let me answer the question, so who is this camera really for? So again, this camera is for photography enthusiasts looking for compact yet powerful mirrorless cameras with advanced features, content creators and vloggers, because they can benefit from high quality 4K videos and microphone input, as this camera is really lightweight and it has the versatility for shooting in those conditions. So when we talk about the Sony cameras, the first thing that comes to my mind is the picture style or the picture quality that the camera gives. Me being a Canon user, I personally I do like the Sony looks. So starting with the sensor, the Sony ZV-10 Mark II has the APS-C XMOR-R CMOS sensor with the resolution of 26 megapixels. And when we talk about the autofocus, it has a fast hybrid autofocus with 759 face detection points. Now straight to photo capabilities, we get to have 26 megapixel pictures with 6000 by 4000 pixels resolution, burst shooting up to 11 frames per second with electronic shutter, high dynamic range for various shooting scenarios, and file formats are JPEG, HEIF and RAW formats. So that's it for photo capabilities. Now let us dig into video capabilities. When we talk about video capabilities, it does 4K at 60 frames per second, but again with the cropped factor of 1:1, which I really don't think that is a bummer, but it could be better. But with the 4K 30 FPS, we do not get the crop factor, and again with the 1080p we can do around like 120 frames per second, similar to the EOS R50 and R10. The color profile we do get is the S-Cinetone for cinematic color grading, which I feel is amazing. And the bonus features that we do get with this Sony ZV-10 Mark II is we get to have the Sony S-Log3, S-Log2 for advanced post-processing. Simply with the S-Log3 and S-Log2 we get to have a higher dynamic range. When we talk about stabilization, it does have a electronic stabilization for smooth handled footage, which if we compare it with the R10 and the R50, they did not get. So who can this camera be for? So this camera can be for vloggers and content creators, for travel photographers, social media influencers and hobbyists seeking versatility. Finally, we are done with the crop sensor series. Now I guess it's time to move on to the full frame series. So now with the full frame series, we can of course get started out with a Sony camera again. That will be the Sony A74. Now Sony A74 is a stunning camera, and it's just a competitor for the EOS R6 Mark II, because those camera got launched I guess at the same time, with a bit few months delay here and there, if I can remember. In general, talking about the Sony A74, it's an amazing camera both for photographers and videographers, because it's a high-pitch camera which Sony have launched. Sensor that the A74 has is a full-frame black illuminated CMOS sensor with resolution being 33 megapixels. The weight of the camera is approximately around 658 grams with a card and a battery. Coming to the autofocus, it has hybrid autofocus with 759 face detection and 400 contrast detection points, similarly to the Sony ZV-10 II. And the best thing that I feel that they have over here is the AI based subject recognition and tracking, which can be really beneficial in real world scenarios, because with Canon we do not get those. And personally, I have been into those situations where with my Canon EOS R6 Mark II, it doesn't focus at all where I want it to focus. The best thing that the Sony A74 has over the R6 Mark II is we do get the full-size HDMI port with the Sony A74, which Canon must learn from Sony. Now let us jump into photo capabilities real quick, because with the photo capabilities we do get the 33 megapixel resolution with 7008 by 4672 pixels resolution, which is kind of a bit odd, but we can determine from right over here that it's a 7K sensor. The only thing which I find as a bummer over here, if you are a photographer, is that we only get 10 frames per second with mechanical as well as electronic shutter, which can be a bit of a bummer if you are into sports photography and wildlife photography, because you are capturing essential moments when you're in it. Dynamic range, with photos we do get 15 stops of dynamic range, and the file formats we can get is JPEG, HEIF and RAW formats. Straight to the chase, video capabilities, we do get 4K 60, but again it's cropped. With the EOS R6 Mark II we do not get that crop factor, but we do get 4K 30 frames per second with full width, which is oversampled from 7K sensor. And lastly, color profiles we have is S-Cinetone, S-Log3, S-Log2 for cinematic color grading. Of course, it's essential when you are working on quality production. So again, at the end of the day, who is this camera for? So this camera is for hybrid creators, perfect for those who need high quality photos and videos. For this camera is also for content creators and vloggers. It can be for wedding and even photographers, because it does have reliable autofocus system, low light performance, which Sony is of course renowned for, and dynamic range, making it ideal for diverse conditions. And of course it can be also for travel and lifestyle creators, and someone who is a hobbyist photographer, or simply for professionals, because it is a professional body. So just a quick note over here, I'm not going to be including the comparison of Canon EOS R6 versus the R8 in this video, because I've already made a in-depth review video about the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, which is already out there on my channel. Here's the link to it. You can click on it and have a look. It will clear all your doubts which you may have in your mind. Now, when it comes to the EOS R8 versus the R6 Mark II, there are only three things that the R8 doesn't have over the R6 Mark II. Those are stabilization. The R6 Mark II has in-body stabilization, whereas R8 doesn't. When it comes to battery life, the R6 Mark II has longer battery life due to the LPE6NH batteries, which the R6 Mark II supports. And lastly, the weight. The R8 is significantly lighter and more compact. And if you have made it this far to the video, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like and share button as well. Oh, and do not forget to check out the description box below, because I have included the specifications which have been left out of each camera in the description box below, which you may have a doubt about. And moving on to the next, our next contender is the Nikon Z63. So this might be a little bit odd of me, putting the Nikon over here, but Nikon is not a potato camera anymore. Personally I feel it has surpassed that potato camera face, because if you want to know why Nikon is called a potato camera, I'll leave just a link over here to my YouTube shorts. You can have a look and understand why Nikon is called a potato camera. Personally, what I feel is that the Nikon Z63 offers a balanced combination of high-quality imaging, advanced video features, and robust performance, making it a compelling choice for a range of photography and videography applications. The best thing that I see over here Nikon has done is they have provided us with full-frame back-sided illuminated partially stacked CMOS sensor, which though it's partially stacked, when we talk about the rolling shutter effect, we do get to see a visible difference if we compare it to the R6 Mark II and the Sony A74, because with those models we do get, you know, rolling shutter a lot when we are taking moving shots. The resolution is 24.5 megapixels. Over here with this camera as well, we do get a full-size HDMI port, which again Canon must learn from this companies. And last but not the least, let us quickly jump on to, you know, photo capabilities of this camera. The burst shooting options we do get over here with this camera is 14 frames per second with mechanical shutter and 20 frames per second with electronic shutter, and 120 frames per second in 11 megapixels continuous mode. And let us get to the real deal over here, the video capabilities. So the video resolutions that it can do is 6K 60 frames per second in 12-bit NRAW and ProRes RAW HQ, 4K up to 120 frames per second, and 4K 60 FPS in full frame resolution, and 1080p up to 240 frames per second full frame, which is amazing for Nikon to put out such amazing features at this price point with this small body. Color profiles that we do get is, you know, analog for extensive color grading flexibility. So this camera can be for professional photographers who are seeking for a versatile camera for various genres such as you know, portrait photography, landscape, and, you know, even photography. On to the next, videographers and filmmakers, because this camera provides high resolution video capabilities with advanced color grading. This camera is also for hybrid shooters because it's a, you know, really reliable tool for high quality stills and professional video production. Sports and action photographers, because they can benefit from, you know, fast burst rates and advanced autofocus tracking. And lastly, for creators who are looking for rich camera to produce diverse multimedia content. This video help you clarify your camera options. As someone who has been in this field for years, I know how daunting it can be, but the right gear can truly elevate your work. If you have made it so far, consider subscribing, liking and sharing. And if you feel like, you know, I made a mistake somewhere along the way, you can of course feel free to comment down below and you know, share your thoughts in the comments and suggest, you know, what camera you feel is the best, you know, from your point of view or from your perspective, as there are the people who are watching this content as well. So consider subscribing, and, you know, I hope that you enjoyed this today's video. A lot of effort has been put into it, so I'll be seeing you in the next one.